Oh, those two.
Well, good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to the broadcast. We're so glad that you came to hang out with us tonight. I'm Apostle Nona Ray,
And I'm Apostle Glenda Ray.
and we are God's girls, keeping it real. Welcome to the show. We have a very special guest here with us tonight that we would love to introduce you to. He's a great guy. I like him. I really do. I like him. So we want to introduce to you.
This is Judge Art Smigielski.
She has to say it because I can't. I can't pronounce his name. I can say Art just fine. But when we get to the Smigielski, I said it. I did well,
You
didn't I?
did very
You
well.
got it.
Wonderful. As long as I can read it, I can say it. So, Judge, we wanted to welcome you to God's Girls. It's such an honor to have you here with us tonight. And we just want to introduce you to our audience and give you an opportunity to tell them about you. He's running for a judgeship office here in Will County. And so we want you guys to meet him and give him an opportunity to just share what his vision is, what his purpose is, and the reason he's running, because he's not just running just to be on a ticket, but he has some real, I think, heart compassions for what's going on in our world today. So again, welcome, Judge.
Apostle Nona, Apostle Glenda, thank you both for allowing me to be here. It's my privilege to be here with you. It's been a couple years since I joined you, and I'm happy to be here again.
Yeah.
Great compliments. I appreciate everything you've said. As far as I'm concerned, I'm done. I can't top what you said, so I appreciate the kind words. Yes.
Just slide the offering.
There you go.
Okay,
There you go. Well, thank you. No, truly, the introduction was special. I do appreciate all the kind words.
Yeah.
As the apostle said, my name is Art Smigielski. I not only am running for circuit judge here in Will County, but I currently am an associate judge. So essentially, I'm seeking a promotion, still here at the trial court level, but one level higher than where I am currently.
Okay.
And I've had the pleasure of serving the Will County community in the role of associate judge for well over 9 years now. So it's truly been the honor of a lifetime professionally to do what I've been allowed to do by the circuit judges and by the citizens of Will County. It really has been professionally, it's the pinnacle as far as what I've been able to.
Can you talk to us a little bit about what your track has been?
Sure, absolutely.
Coming up through the ranks and making it to
Absolutely.
Judge.
I started in 1988. I graduated law school in May, June of 1988, took the bar exam that summer, and have been a practicing and licensed attorney since November of 1988. My first job was here in Will County in the state's attorney's office. Actually, before I was even a licensed attorney, I was an intern in the state's attorney's office. So I've got probably 4.5 to close to 5 years of prosecutorial experience in the state's attorney's office. I left the state's attorney's office in late 92, joined a local Joliet firm, Shank, Duffy, Quinn, etc. There were probably 7 or 8 names on it. That firm in that same format no longer exists, but it was a great learning experience. I worked with some really good people who taught me private practice, because in the state's attorney's office, you learn how to try a case and you learn how to prosecute and be in a courtroom from that perspective. But I think it's important that you get the perspective from the other side. So during those couple of years I was at that firm, I worked with some really good people, taught me a lot, both about the law and about involvement in the community, because many of them were very active in the community. Then in 1994 to 2015, I was engaged in the private practice of law, variety, diverse practice. I was a small practitioner, small office, small partnership. During those 21 years or thereabout, I learned not only how to practice, even improve on my practicing of the law, but I learned how to manage people. I learned how to manage with people, how to work with people in an effort to accomplish things. And those things are important because one of the key differences in the role that I'm hoping to leave and advance to is that the role of a circuit judge in a courtroom is the same as that of an associate judge. If you were to come to the courthouse and observe a courtroom, you wouldn't necessarily know whether you were appearing before an associate judge or a circuit judge, because in a trial courtroom, we perform the same functions.
Okay.
The key distinction is the administrative roles that
Mm.
circuit court judges have, because circuit court judges perform administrative and managerial tasks that associate judges do not. So things such as appointing associate judges, appointing the public defender, appointing
Oh,
probation
okay,
officers,
okay.
managing that big, beautiful building that
Okay.
we
Yeah.
have in
Yeah.
downtown Joliet. I mean,
Mhm.
those are all things that the circuit judges have a very important role in. And I think that my legal experience, plus the experience of managing an office, managing people, and being involved in making sure that you meet a budget, making sure that the obligations that you have are paid. I've enjoyed the successes of managing a small business, and I've
Mhm.
enjoyed the struggles.
Mhm.
Okay,
Maybe
sure.
enjoyed is the wrong word, but you know what I mean.
Okay,
I've
yeah.
benefited from
Capitalized
those.
on,
Yes,
yeah,
you,
sure.
the struggles are also a benefit in the long
Mhm,
term, because
mhm.
you learn from them and you move forward. So
Yeah.
I think those are some of the things that will provide a more rounded and more
Mhm.
benefit to
Yeah.
the citizens of Will County
Yeah.
when I'm successful in this campaign.
Very
Absolutely.
good, very good.
The last time you were here, we were kind of looking straight in the eyes of the Safety Act.
We were. You're
We were.
absolutely
Yeah.
right.
At that time, there was no vote on it.
Mhm.
It was coming up. And since that time, we've crossed that threshold,
We have.
and the Safety Act is now in full effect. So as a judge, has it been as difficult as many thought that it would be or said that it would be? And can you talk to us a little bit about
Sure.
what you have seen?
First, I'll tell you that since we met last, I don't believe that the lawsuit involving the Safety Act had yet been
That's
concluded.
correct.
The lawsuit uh, ultimately made its way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court ruled and upheld the Safety Act, but that period of time that that lawsuit took reopened conversations in the legislature. There were some changes made to the Safety Act by the legislature that, by and large, I think were probably good changes. Do I think it's a perfect law? Absolutely not. There are certain scenarios where I have to follow the law, but it really makes no sense to me.
Mhm.
Some of the examples I can give to you, offenses that are not detainable, because if someone is arrested, the offense that they are alleged to have committed either is detainable, which means that we can consider holding them
Mhm.
or releasing them with conditions, or not detainable, which means that we can't even consider
Mm.
keeping them in jail. Some of the two offenses that come to mind that are not even detainable. One is the offense of escape. So if you are on an electronic monitor and you escape from that monitor, it is not even a detainable offense.
Mm.
So you can't
Wow.
even consider keeping them for the new charge. Now, you might be able to sanction somebody for what they did, but the offense itself is not detainable. The other one that is not detainable, that is, I think, fairly glaring, aggravated battery to a police officer unless
Mm.
you injure the police officer.
Wow.
So if you were to be alleged to have punched a police officer, not detainable unless that punch causes some injury to
Mm.
the police officer. The other extreme, depending on interpretation, my interpretation of the Safety Act is they want no cash bail. I interpret that to mean I can give somebody what's known as a personal recognizance bond. For those who are familiar with Cook County terminology, it's called an I bond.
Mhm.
You don't have to post any money or released on your signature. There's a school of thought that thinks that you cannot do that. So if you fail to appear in court and you're speeding 30 miles an hour over the speed limit, let's say, there's a school of thought that says you have to be detained on that failure to appear warrant, that there can be no bond.
Mhm.
So you've got people whose crime is speeding, and I don't mean to minimize the offense of speeding, especially at that rate.
Mhm.
But I don't think it's fair that somebody who's arrested for failing to appear in court on a speeding ticket needs to sit in jail for
Right.
several nights while
Okay.
their paperwork makes it to court.
Mhm.
There have been people who were arrested on that warrant in Cook County, so by the time they make it to Will County and get their case addressed in court, sometimes it's 5, 6, 7 days. I don't think that was the intent of the legislature. So I think that that's something that they need to clarify,
Okay.
because again, I believe that it's perfectly proper, and it's not because I'm looking for loopholes. It's uh, different people read laws different ways, and that's where I think that we need to give words their plain meaning. I don't think no cash bail necessarily means everybody needs to be locked up.
Okay.
Uh,
Yes.
and so you've got the one extreme where people are being locked up for an extent, what I would consider extended period of time. I would hate to be in jail for a week because I was going too fast.
Right. Right.
And then on the other end, you've got people who you can't even consider. And I'm not even saying that everybody who has committed a specific offense needs to be detained, but the option, the consideration isn't even there to afford us that ability.
Yeah.
So, but you do what you do. I'm a judge. I can comment on what I like or don't like, but I'm going to follow the law. I will follow what the law is, because that is the oath that I and all judges take, is to follow the laws of the state of Illinois, follow the Constitution of the United States, follow the Constitution of the state of Illinois. So I have to put my personal feelings aside when I'm
Sure.
at work, and I do that.
Mhm.
Every day that I come home, if I were to look back on every decision I made, if in a given day I've agreed with every decision I've made, I've probably not done my job correctly,
Okay.
Okay.
because it doesn't, my personal feelings, my moral opinions don't necessarily and should not necessarily play a role in there, because
Sure.
my role is to be that of the
Follow the
person
law.
who
Mhm.
follows the law, apply facts to the law and the law to the Constitution, and not do what I would wish would be the right answer in a
Yes,
particular
right,
case. So
right.
that
Yeah.
sometimes is the hardest or most frustrating part of the job, when I have to do something that I don't agree with, but I
Mhm.
know that it's the right thing to do because of the office that I hold.
Sure.
Mhm.
Sure.
Very good.
I have a question,
Sure.
and I don't know if this is part of your jurisdiction, but we understand that we've been inundated in our country with illegals coming in across the border, and some of that has penetrated and infiltrated into our city as well. How does that play in terms of, um, and do you have any jurisdiction over individuals who are in the city illegally, um, in unless there's a crime or something that's committed? Other outside of that, do you have any jurisdiction or jurisprudence
No.
over?
Fair question, and the answer is no, unless there is a crime alleged to have been committed or a lawsuit involving that person. I have no jurisdiction, nor does any state court judge have jurisdiction over that, unless they are being prosecuted for something or a party to a lawsuit in some way. Do we see them? Sure, we do. One of my prior assignments was traffic court, both petty traffic offenses and aggravated traffic offenses. So you would see people who never had a valid driver's license. They would come into court, and through the interpreter, they would say, "I had one from my home country," etc. But again, so you know that they're here, they're unable to get a license, or at least they were at the time. So you know that there are people here without the appropriate documentation that would enable them to get the IDs and driver's license. I have not been in the traffic courtroom for over approaching a year now, I should say. So I don't know if that has increased or decreased. I know there has been a change in the ability to issue driver's licenses as opposed to what used to be called the TVDL, which was the temporary visitor driver's license. Now everybody's eligible for a standard driver's license. So I don't know if that's cut back on the amount of people that are coming through traffic court with those no valid license charges. But it does impact the courts. It does impact the courts because the driver's license issues. I mean, oftentimes it would be a speeding ticket, and now it's a speeding ticket plus a misdemeanor offense of never having had a valid driver's license. So now there's more court time involved, more court personnel involved, because it's an offense for which they typically, the defendant will typically benefit from having an attorney. Oftentimes the folks who come in with those charges won't have the funds to afford a private lawyer, so now it's another case for the public defender's office to have to represent folks on. So
Okay.
it does affect the court process, yes.
So is there some limitations as to the kind of cases as a judge you would oversee? I mean, I heard you just say you haven't been in traffic. So obviously traffic is not something that you deal with.
I haven't been in traffic in a year. I actually have been assigned to traffic in the past. As an associate judge and as a circuit judge, we are assigned our court calls by the chief judge.
Okay.
One of the differences between an associate judge and a circuit judge, at least by tradition, circuit judges are given first choice or a little bit more priority in terms of the ability to choose their court calls, whereas associate judges, our chief judges here have been very good. They ask us to, we call it a wish list. You list your top 4 or 5 choices. Does that mean that you'll get one of your choices? Not necessarily,
Okay.
but at least the chief judge does take into consideration our preferences, and if it can be accommodated, he does so. He does so because obviously, if everybody wanted a particular court call, you can't put everybody on that court call. But there's enough variety that people prefer that the chief judge does a great job at that. But in terms of what I have done, in the 9+ years, I've been in basic traffic court 2 times. I've been in misdemeanor and aggravated traffic court for 2 or 3 years. I'm losing track myself. I've been in, when we used to have bail in Illinois, I was in bond court for 2 years. I was actually in bond court during the first Bail Reform Act back in 2018, I think it was 18 and 19 that came in, is when I was in bond court. I've been in a child custody court. So I've got experience across a variety of the issues. In 1 year, I was what we call a floater, which means that you're assigned a court call based upon judges' vacation schedules or illnesses. So that year, I was in a civil small claims courtroom. I was in, so I've been probably in every courtroom that's sort of a civil jury trial. I think I've done everything, at least on one day. That in terms of my experience. I've been in juvenile court, I've been in the probate court, family courts. So I've my diverse background that I spoke of in terms of my legal experience also extends to my practice on the bench.
So then that gives you experience as you're running for a circuit judge. A lot of experience that you've gained under your belt.
Yes, thank you. It's been a great privilege and a great learning process because speaking with colleagues and how they handle certain matters across the spectrum of cases that come through the Will County courts, sometimes you just learn by having a conversation with people. You just learn by having a conversation with people and what they've experienced over the course of a day. And it's truly been, professionally, it has been the best thing that I could have hoped for. And I just hope to see it continue.
It sounds like something that you really love.
I do. I'll tell you, I am one of the blessed people who every morning when I get up to go to work, I'm excited to go to work.
That's great.
I love what I do. I love the people I work with. I'm blessed. I am blessed both professionally and I'm blessed personally. I haven't even told you about my family. I've been married 33 years. I got a great wife, love of my life. I've got 2 great children. My daughter, here we go. I'm going to give her a little shout out here. She just got engaged this past weekend.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And then we've got a son who's both of our kids are are both educators. So we're very excited and we're very happy with the young adults that they've both become.
Yeah, wonderful. So dealing with the public the way that you do, everything from juvenile to, again, traffic to all of that, is there a preference? Is there some area that you prefer sitting as judge in? Is it with children or do you have one?
I don't know that I have a preference, but I will tell you that one of the courts, if I can use the word fun,
Okay.
Traffic court for me is about as fun as you can get because those are folks like us.
Yeah,
Mhm.
They're
normal people.
the people who are in traffic court. If you have someone who is a criminal in traffic court, it's a coincidence to why they're there. They're not there because they're a criminal. This is people who you rolled the stop sign.
Yeah.
You were doing a few miles an hour over the
Yeah.
speed limit. So
Yeah.
what I liked about that is I would kind of try and lighten the mood because my opening line to
Mhm.
these folks would be, whatever you've done that brings you into this courtroom, folks, is probably something I did by the time I was 17.
Okay.
So none of you are going to jail today.
Yeah.
You're all going to go home. Some are going to get a fine. If you're eligible for it, you're going to get
Mhm.
court supervision. It's a situation where those are normal, everyday people who
Yeah.
they didn't they didn't commit the crime of the century. It was a traffic offense, by and large. Now, occasionally, you do have very tragic events there
Sure.
because sometimes you will have a scenario where something terrible
That's it.
has happened, but
Mhm. Mhm.
you deal with that differently. So I think I've shown that I have the ability to add a little bit of levity when the situation calls for it, but still be appropriately respectful, stern, and
Yeah.
somber
Yeah.
when that situation. The other thing I like about traffic court, I'll tell you, is you mentioned juveniles, so not necessarily in a criminal setting or in an abuse and neglect setting, but you get that 16, 17, 18-year-old, you can explain to them the consequences
Right.
of some of these
Mhm.
traffic offenses
Sure.
Mhm.
Mhm.
that may be misdemeanor offenses and explain
Mhm.
to them the benefit of the disposition that they're getting because now it's not going to haunt them for the rest of their lives if they
Right.
don't get that conviction, if they're
Right.
fortunate to get court supervision or work out some negotiations with the state that uh, give them the ability to do community service work instead of going to
Sure.
jail because it's a situation where, especially at that age, you don't want a mistake to define what
Sure.
you become.
Sure.
Absolutely.
I'm sure as a judge, you kind of govern and garner the atmosphere in your courtroom, which
Yeah.
is very, very key because most of the time when people are going to court, they may not know what to expect. They don't know
Nervous.
what kind of mood the judge is going to
Mhm.
be in that day. And then it's almost like getting a letter from the IRS.
Oh,
It's something that
You got that right.
you never want. You don't want to go to court, but being in a courtroom where, as you stated, you love what you do,
Mhm.
and that makes all the difference for the
Sure.
individuals that are coming into your courtroom because they're going to pick up your presence of your enjoyment of what you're doing. That you're not there to just drop the hammer to say, I'm going to get you, but
Mhm.
making it light. At the same time, though, being able to having individuals come away say, well, that judge was pretty light. And so maybe I can go and do it again and get this judge.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm sure you run into that as well.
No, and I don't believe that I treat anybody lightly. I think that I've been able to blend the offense with the person and the appropriate discipline, if you
Yeah.
will.
Yeah.
But I think I've also been able to incorporate the seriousness of an offense. So I know what you're saying, and yes, there's a way to manage a courtroom, manage a court call, and manage a particular case where you don't want to come across as an ogre, but you need to know that I'm being serious.
Yes. Yes.
And I'll take that opportunity. I think that by and large, I've been able to blend that pretty well because attorneys, every time a judge or judicial candidate runs for an office, the attorneys from the State Bar Association and the Will County Bar Association conduct a poll, and the results of that poll are available to the public. I'm very proud of the ratings that I've gotten because, in terms of legal ability and the qualifications for the office, integrity, there's 9 categories in total. I have scored 93.8% positive was my lowest rating, and they were up from there. So I'm very proud of that. So if the listeners want to see who the best candidate for a particular judicial office, the office that I'm running for, we have the benefit of a somewhat objective standard by which we are judged, and that's the lawyers, our colleagues who appear before us, who whether they knew us when we were engaged in private practice, or as judges in the courtroom, or for those attorneys who are running who've never been a judge, they still get rated. So those results are available. If your listeners want to, your viewers, I should say, want to Google Bar Association ratings, Will County, the judicial ratings will come up, and they can compare any of the various judicial offices that are for election, not only in this cycle, but also in any future cycles. Obviously, I want them to pay attention to this cycle. So I think that is very helpful for the people in your viewership.
Okay, so we can run that across the screen. If you give us that information again, Bar Association.
I can give you the exact website off of one of my flyers, but I don't have it with me right now.
Okay.
But yes, if they want to just Google Will County Judge Ratings, that will come
Will
up.
County Judge Ratings.
And that through Google that will come up, because it is isba.org. But then you know how they have those the dash and the semicolon and all that. I don't remember all the information.
Well, they can Google it, because that's good information. I didn't know that you could look at the ratings of judges and see. And I certainly did not know that you're rated by attorneys, and it makes sense. People that have to work with you, you know, if they deem you as unfair and unequitable and unbending and all of that, that is something that certainly could affect the community. So that's really good information to know.
And again, that's attorneys who are prosecutors, defense lawyers, divorce lawyers, lawyers who practice in the civil field, whether they work for the insurance companies or plaintiffs' lawyers, across the entire spectrum, Republicans, Democrats, everybody participates in that.
Wonderful.
So to our viewing audience, we've been speaking with Judge Art Smigielski, who's running for circuit judge in the Will County area. And so if you have not voted, if you haven't gone to the polls as of yet, get to the polls and look for Judge Art. Be smart.
Vote smart, vote art. Thank you for leading me into that one. Vote smart, vote art. You got it.
Judge Art Smigielski, we know that early voting has already begun, and so you can go to the polls and vote. Also, Election Day is November 5th, which is just about, a week away? Wow, we are really, really close. And so, very good, honorable judge, one who is true to integrity. And I have to say, I have been in his courtroom, not for myself, but and just the way that he governs the courtroom and make you feel comfortable, but at the same time, let you know the seriousness of the offense and that we're not going to keep repeating this. And so, again, Judge Art Smigielski, running for circuit judge in Will County.
A man who upholds the law. And most of our audience is a Christian audience. And we understand the importance of upholding law, because we have to uphold the laws of God. That is what sets us apart from any other religious entity. We uphold God's law. So upholding the law is important, and it's very important. Everybody out there, please go to the polls and vote on Wednesday. We need your voice. Well, Judge Art, I have one final question for you. Actually, it's not a question. It's probably just a segue into our ending. If you would just tell our viewers why you think that they should vote for you, if that's not too difficult of a question. I'm sure you know why. And we've been talking about a lot of things here, but kind of summarize.
I think I have the legal experience, the legal ability, the judicial experience, the temperament, and the experience of being involved in managing a business and administering a business with people. I think those are all of the qualities that need to be taken into account in selecting a circuit judge, because those are all the various roles. And most importantly, I think that the bar ratings speak to the quality of the work that I've done and will continue to do.
Wonderful.
Now, if I may make a comment, this has been one of the highlights of this campaign, being with you, Apostle Mona, and you, Apostle Glenda. So I thank you for allowing me to join you this evening.
Absolutely.
great.
We were hoping to get you on earlier, but we understand campaigning is, people don't get it. It's a lot of work, but
It
we
is.
were able to get you in just before we
There you
slid
go.
under the wire
There you go.
and give our viewers an opportunity to pick Judge Art, a very righteous man. Please,
thank
please,
you.
please go out and vote. God will thank you, and we certainly thank you for your vote.
Vote smart,
Vote
Vote
Art.
Art.
vote art.
Well, it has been a pleasure, Judge Art. We are praying for great success for you.
Can't ask for more than that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And we'll see you on the other side of the election.
All right. Well,
All
thank you.
right. You're
All right.
welcome.
Please invite me back, or
I
I'll come in
will.
anyway.
We'll
All
invite you back outside of the election.
Absolutely
so you can
right.
just come and talk about the judicial world.
Absolutely. It'd be a
Okay.
pleasure. It
All
would
right.
be a pleasure.
Very good. Very
Okay.
good. Well, I am Apostle Nona Ray,
And I'm Apostle Glenda Ray.
and we are God's girls, keeping it real. Have a great weekend and go vote.
We'll
Have a great
see
night.
you after the polls.